Open my database. Okay, so what we will do, we were using this employee table, right? So in this employee table, we will use password also so that we can implement that login functionality. So email ID was already there, so we just need a password field. Let's see. Now over here also we need to add the same field, property, password. Okay, so we have added one column in the table. Likewise, we have increased one more property in our model also. Okay, so while inserting, where is that insert API? Okay, so when we are inserting everything. We are not changing the object anything, right? So once we run the Swagger, we will get the username and password also. Okay, now we have to create an API to log in. So when we say login, what we need to do, we just need to match, let's say email ID is the username and the password. So we need to check whatever the data we have got from the object, if user email ID is equal to email ID and password is equal to same, right? So, but while doing this, first email ID should be unique or no? If we are considering email ID as a for login, should email ID as be unique or no?
Yes, it should be.
Right? We need email ID as a unique thing because then only we will be able to properly log in. Otherwise, for one email ID, there might be more than one email ID, same email ID. Okay, so we need to add that restriction first. So when we are adding, okay, we already had that restriction on the email. Okay, so let's implement the API. So HTTP post login API. Okay, so public iAction result login. Now, as we said, we are going to log in with email ID and the password. So we have to create a new model. Okay. So let's create a new model, which we are going to accept as a parameter. So let's say public class login model. Let's say email ID and then password. Okay. So we have created this model. Now this model we are going to accept as a parameter, means when UI is going to hit our API, they are going to send the object like this with these two properties. Okay. So that we will accept over here. Now here we need to write the logic to check if whatever the email ID and whatever the password user has sent, does it exist or not? Okay. So where is exist is equal to underscore context. What should we use? How we can check if email ID and password exist or not? What should we use? How do we check like whatever the email ID we got and the password we got, is there any user in the table or not? How do we use that? What I have to write?
You can use where.
Where, see, understand the difference. Forget about .NET. Everyone knows JavaScript or Angular. What's the function of filter? What filter does in array? What does filter does in array?
Finds if any specific ID is there. Or
No.
So remove
Filter.
unmatched data. Remove.
No. What you are saying? Filter. Filter will get you multiple matching record, whatever the condition you pass. Correct? Correct or no? Filter will
Yes,
get
yes.
you multiple matching record. And what does find does in JavaScript? Array.
First match record.
First match record. Even if it got multiple record, it will only return the first match record. Clear? Same like that in .NET, where when you will use where? When you will use where clause? When you want multiple record. If you want a single record, I said na ki email ID is unique. So obviously for email ID password if match, we are supposed to get only one record. So what I should use over here to check if the whatever the email ID and password we got, if record is already there or not for that email ID and the password, what should we use?
Single or default?
Single or default, na? Correct? As I said, email ID is not going to be repeated. So for every email ID, we will only have one record. So whenever I say one record, always go for a single or default. So single or default. M dot email ID equal to object dot email ID, whatever the email ID we get in the object. And we need to match both the field, email ID and the password. So m dot password is equal to obj dot password. That's it. This is login query. We are checking if in my table I have a record with this email ID and this password. If I have the record, I will get that record. Otherwise, it will be single or default. If single or default doesn't found the record, it will be null. Correct? So is exist equal to null. If it is null, what we can say? Not found. Or that in login, normally we can say that not authorized. So status code or not one. Correct? Not authorized. Invalid. Invalid credentials. But if this is exists is not null, it will go to the else block. And in else block, we have to send the object. Return. Okay. And we will send the object whatever we got. This is exist. Understood? This is very simple login API. And this is the only way to implement the login. Again, like code might increase, but basic functionality will be this only. Clear? Okay,
Yes,
let's
it's clear.
try this. See,
Here we
always
can get the username also or email.
Everything,
Email
na?
is already there. Yes.
everything. We are trying to get the record, particular record, single outgo. So in exist, we will get the whole object of that employee.
Okay.
Okay. So remember, whenever you have to find a single record, there are two ways: single or default, first or default, or that find also. Okay. If you know that the record you are matching has only one record, just like email ID, we have added the validation that it cannot be repeated. So you can use single or default only. Okay. But let's say you want the record, let's say employee record, and from employee record, you need the first record matching with this city. So you can use first or default. Okay. And when you, whatever the condition you pass, you are going to get multiple records. So there you will where. Swagger. Let's create some record first. Save employee. Let's say test11@gmail.com. Sorry, email ID should be over here. One 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 2222 83. Password I'm passing 1122. Okay, let's create this record. Save. Okay, so employee has been successfully created. Now let's try to log in. I will first provide the email ID correct and the password wrong. Okay, this is my email ID. some random password I'm assigning. Yeah, debugger is there. Let's execute. So see, we got the object, email ID and the password. Let's check if we are getting the record. See, it is null because in our employee table, we don't have any record with this email ID and this password. So it will go to the if block and it will say not found, invalid credential, unauthorized something. Okay. Let's pass the correct password. 1122. Execute. So see, now we got the whole object. Getting it? And that we are returning back. See, that's it. Understood? This is simple login API,
Yes.
right? Every time if you have not seen, but Mohammed, you might have written the login thing na, in ASP.NET also, or Windows, whatever you are doing.
Yes. We have written,
Same
but
thing might be
yeah.
there, na? You will be writing
Yes.
in the SQL query, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there you might be writing like select star from that record where email ID is equal to this and password in SQL query, and you will get that data in data adapter or somewhere, right?
Yes.
So same thing. How do we do that over here? We write it over here by using single or default. Okay. Now Angular guys, like we get the machine test, right? So sometimes we have to do the CRUD operation with JSON server or JSON file, right? Where we create JSON file and we have to write the login without API. So there also we use the same way. Array.find where email ID is equal to email ID, password is equal to password. So from your array, you are checking if you have a record with this email ID and this password. So as I always say, technology doesn't matter. It's what's the logic. If you understand the logic now, syntax you can find it on ChatGPT or Google also, right? If you know the logic, you can write anywhere. Now something like this same will be in the Java also. Okay? Because logic is going to same, na? Syntax is going to change, but logic is not going to change, right? Fine. Shall we move ahead? Is this clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone had a
Clear.
question why we created this model? Or tell me like what are the use cases or what are the scenarios when we are going to create models like this? This question should have come.
Yes, I
Apart
had
from
this
dot.
question in my mind because we can send these two parameters even, email
Right?
ID and password.
But
Yes.
see, instead of post API, you could have created a two parameter and you could have created get API also. But normally, whenever we are going to get object means more than one field, right? So we should always go for a post API, not the parameter. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say it's a search API, table search API, right? So you just have a single parameter. In that case, you can go for get API. Okay. But rather than if you are going to get an object, it's always should be post API. Clear?
Okay. Got it.
No, that was not actually my question. That was question for Angular guys. So for we created login API. So again, we have to create an object like this. So whenever you are going to accept some data apart from your model, this was our actual model. But in login API, we are not going to send the whole model, na? EMP ID, contact number, password. Why we are going to send in the login this many field? We just need two field, email ID and the password. So to accept that data, we have to create a specific model. Anyone got this question in mind? Like why we created this model? Because these two fields were already over here, right? But again, we have written it, right? So if we could have used this employee master over here also instead of login, but
We have to
again from
provide
the
all the
UI,
field.
right? It won't be required that we will pass all the field, but it doesn't make sense, na? If we are not using this field, why to keep that field in that, right? Guys, clear everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Now
Yes, sir.
one more question: how we will be? So login API we have created. So what will be password change API? How it will be password change API? Right after we log in, we can change the password also. So what that API will look like? What code we have to write?
We have to make a put API.
Right. Simple put API. Whatever we have written over here, na? Same thing over here. Instead of AMP number, we will just update the password. That's it. But there is a catch. What extra thing we have to write in update API, update password API,
We have to confirm the previous password.
right? You might have used some application where you need to enter the existing password. Then only they will allow you to update the password. Okay. Let's implement that now. So now, as I say, I have to create an API which will update the password. Let's say user logged in. After that, he is going to update the password. We know he is already logged in, but we just want to confirm that request is coming from a legitimate user. So how do we confirm that? If he provided the existing password. So now tell me what field we will be needing. Is this model will be enough to update the password? Is this model will be enough to update the password API,
No, we need a new password.
right?
New password.
So hmm, डालेगा. Just a minute. Okay. So from API, what we are going to send? Either user ID we can send, existing password and the new password, right? So let's create a model now. So password model. So let's say instead of asking email ID, we will ask directly user ID because he is already logged in. He has the user ID. Imagine your UI application also. You logged in local storage or session storage, you have the email ID, right? So that email ID we will ask. What's that? EMP ID. Okay. So user logged in. So while user logged in, he has the EMP ID. So he will send it. Okay. Why it is giving error? Okay. Semicolon. Then he will pass the new password also and existing password also. Okay. So 3 fields we are going to get. Now, in where it is. So I will just copy paste this. Now, instead of login model, we will be receiving password model. Password model or what? Yeah, password model. Okay. So here we will say change password. Same thing over here. Now, in over here, we are going to get the ID. So let's get that particular record now because we need to compare the password, confirm password from with our database. So we will get the record first. Okay. EMP ID is equal to obj EMP ID. So here what we are trying, we are going to get the employee ID. So from that, we are going to get the whole record. If it is not null, if it is null, if user, if from API, from UI, the user sent the wrong email ID. So obviously, this status code should be there. If we got the record, means you employee ID he has sent correctly. So there here we have to write a logic over here. Is same. Here what we will write is exist dot password, existing password equal to, sorry, if condition we have to write now. If is exist password mean is in exist on let's say user data, that will make more sense. Okay, so if user data dot password is equal to object dot current password, existing password. Okay, so then only we will allow him to update. So user data dot password is equal to new password. bj dot new password. Okay, then underscore context dot save changes. Okay, this is if he provided the correct password. We need a else also. What do we need to send in else? What we have to send in else? For not one saying password doesn't match. Existing password. Correct? and this will be over here. Understood? So see what we have written. First, we got the primary key from our object, so we have got the record. Okay. If it is not null, means user has sent the wrong primary key, so we will say invalid credential or record not found. Or instead of status found, not found, we will use. Okay. If user pass the correct primary key, we will get the record. Then we are checking current password is equal to existing password. What user has sent. If it is okay, correct, if password is same, then we will update the password and debit or save changes. If password is wrong, then we are sending 401 with password doesn't match. Okay. Let's try this. I will show you that OTP based also, okay? Another project we have, that e-commerce project we were working on, there we have that. I will showcase that. What was the login detail we use? It is going to the else block, catch block. Okay. So you can see we are getting error now. Data is null and this method property cannot be called with null. Previously it was working, right? But what we did, we created a new column. But no, this is optional. No? Why it is giving error now? Let's check the error one more time. If it was mandatory, it should give the error. And it is saying data is null. What data? Method cannot be applied on null value. In model, we said mandatory. No. Why it is saying data is null? Data is null. The method cannot be applied on null values. Let's pass the password. We didn't make that field required, but still it is giving. Strange. Okay. What was the password we created? Test11. Okay, so current password is 1122. Okay, let's try this. We need the email ID also. 4002. Okay, employee ID is 4002. So we will say, I want to update 4002 record. Existing password is 11223344. I'm passing the wrong password. Okay, new password. And I'm passing the wrong existing password also. Okay, execute. So in object, we got everything. So first we are trying to get the record by matching with EMP ID. So we got the record. Okay. So see, existing password is 1122. It will go to the else block. It is checking current password is 1122, which is not equal to the existing password what UI has sent. Okay. So it will go to the else block and it will say password doesn't match. Okay. Now we will send the correct existing password 1122. Execute. We got the record. Now existing password is user has also sent 1122 and current password is also 1122. Password match. So we are allowing him to change the password. Okay. Now we will be able to update. We will be able to log in with this email ID. This was the email ID. Login. Updated password is this. Okay, so see, we got the object. We are able to log in with the updated password. Clear?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
In line number 263, why we are comparing with employee ID? Means we are passing email ID, right?
No,
From
no.
the UI.
If you pass email ID from the UI, still how you know? Again, if you don't pass see, what our model is, we are asking while update password, consider Angular application. You're Angular guy, right?
Yeah.
Right? You are already
Yes,
logged
sir.
in your session storage or local storage. You have the whole object, so you know you got the employee ID also. Correct?
I mean, you were saying like you already logged in,
You
and then
already
I'm
logged in, and inside login, you are updating the password.
okay.
So you
But
already
if I
now
don't log in,
that will be
forgot
forget
password is
password.
different.
Forget
Okay,
password is
okay.
different. Nah, this is update password when you are already logged in, right? Forget password is
Ah,
something different. This is only updating the password. But before updating, we are just checking like if the logged in user is right or not, right?
oh yeah. I thought like it's
No, no,
forgot password.
that is other.
That's why I'm confused. Yeah. Got it.
Everyone understood this?
Yes.
See,
Do we need to preserve old password in the database, or we can overwrite?
we are overriding that, but we are just checking. See, let's say you are in a company, you logged in with some application, okay, and you didn't lock your computer and you gone somewhere. Let's say some other try to update the password. He doesn't know the password, na?
Right, right.
So that's why
No,
we
I'm
have.
talking about the database side. We generally preserve the old password.
Yeah. In some application we preserve. It is according to the requirement. Because if you might have seen VDI login or your Microsoft login, if you enter the previous password, around 5 to 7 password, it remember for the previous. It won't allow you to update the existing. That also logic we can write. Again, we need to create some column and there we can store the old password.
Right.
Or we can store the existing old password into another table also. So we can have a history of old password, and whenever he is updating, we will match. If the old password is already there, we will say the error, like this password already used, use another one.
Right.
That is custom.
Got it.
Yeah. Everyone understood?
Yes, sir.
Just give me 5 minutes. I will come back. Then we can start that stored procedure thing. 5 minutes. Okay, so that forget password thing I will explain once we that email thing I first need to explain. Then I will explain the forget password, because email, in case of forgot password, how many ways are there to reset the to implement the forgot password? How many ways are there?
We can make it by email, sending one email link. Another way, we can
Right.
send one
So
OTP.
we will ask user to enter the email, then we will send the reset password link. Okay. Another one, we will send the OTP either on email or either on WhatsApp or SMS, right? Is there any third way? Previously used to be. Anyone remember?
A security question.
Right, security question. It still exists in case of Microsoft account. Okay. So when we register, we have to provide some question and answer to that. And if we forgot the password, it will provide that question and we need to provide the answer. If answer matches, it will allow us to change. Okay. So again, like it's just a code, but basic logic will be somewhere we need to identify the credentiality of the user. If that credentiality match, then we will allow him to update. Fine.
Another way, if we can, like a Facebook login or Gmail login. I don't know how they are doing it, but
In
maybe
Angular,
we
I
can.
tried. We have one library. Google library is there, but it was not working. So I also didn't try it then.
Okay.
I will try that because I had to create a video for that also. So anytime I'm trying, but yeah, third
It's
party login.
some kind of authentication method. So
No,
we
from
are
Angular side, we have to use that library. just like Bootstrap and everything. Na? So we have a Google Auth library. By using that, we can enable third-party login.
Okay.
But there was no proper documentation also, so I didn't also give that much time.
In .NET, I think something is there.
.NET
like
also with identity login, now we get it
identity,
everything.
yes. Identity. Yeah.
Everything is there. You don't have to do anything. You just, when you create that identity login, now everything code will come. It will be commented. You just need to enable those line. Everything is by default over there. You don't have to do anything. With
Okay.
same
It's
identity
okay.
token also. Everything is there. You just need to uncomment it. You just provide your hash value, what key you need to set. It will start working. Okay. What we want to see? Stored procedure. Okay. So everyone is clear now. What is stored procedure? Angular guys, are you clear what is stored procedure? So in database, stored procedure is like a function. We can create a function, and inside that function we can write a query. Let's say select star from some table, and we can return the data. So whenever we need the data from that for particular that query, we will execute that function. Okay. How we have, what's the benefit of writing function in JavaScript or Angular? Something like that. In database also, we can create a function. We can have some logic over there, and it can return some data. And whenever we want that particular data, we will execute that function. So that function is nothing but stored procedure. Understood? Just
Yes.
for understanding, consider this definition. Okay. Real definition is something else. Okay. So let's create a stored procedure. It is stored procedure. Okay. So this is the default look of the stored procedure. So here we need to provide the stored procedure name. Let's say we want a stored procedure which will get us the employee count. Okay. We want the stored procedure which will get us the employee count. What number of record we have in the employee table. Get employee count. Okay. Now here we are going to write the logic. Sorry, this is parameter. Here you can create the parameter. Just like in our function also we can have the parameter. So in stored procedure also we can have the parameter. We will first create the basic one, then we will create with the parameter. After begin, you need to actually write the stored procedure. What we said, what we need, count of the employee. So select count star from employee master. Okay. If I execute this, let's open a new query. See, if I execute this, I will get the count 14. Okay. And do we need to provide as? We need to provide as, na?
If you need the column name, then you can provide.
Right, because otherwise we cannot read the send data in US in .NET side. We need the column. So see, if we just run this, here we are not getting anything. But if we provide as, in Angular we can use as. Where do we use as in Angular? We have
As
used
Some data type, I
element.
believe they are using.
right just to provide a
Observable.
data type. No, as.
Okay.
See
Sorry.
that dynamic form we have created, na, where we have provided as form array, return type function,
Yes, sir.
right? Means let's say in a function you created a variable with constant. Can we provide a data type to the constant? In normal variable we can create colon, but when you create a function, a variable inside a function, we cannot create a data type. So there we can use as. Okay. So now if we execute, no, we are not getting. Okay, as we need to write it over here. Okay. So whatever the data we get, that we are storing it inside this variable. Understood? So this query we have to put it over here. So this is our stored procedure. Let's execute it. So stored procedure compiled successfully. Now I just need to run this function. My stored procedure name. See, still I'm getting the 14. Means when I'm executing this stored procedure, what it actually doing? It is executing this, whatever the lines of query I have written and whatever the output it has, I will get it. Understood? Angular guys?
Yes, it's clear.
No,
Yes.
you already know. Okay. Dipti, understood now?
Yes, sir. Yes, got it.
Okay, fine. Now this stored procedure, whatever I have stored procedure created, I need to read this stored procedure in my .NET project. Okay. So what type of data we are returning? Employee count. Okay. Means this is do we have any init, means from SQL, there is no something that we can return a single object. It's always list of record we are returning. So it is returning list of record, but currently we are just going to get one record only. Okay. So we have to create a model which will have this property EMP count. Okay. So first, whenever we have to read the stored procedure data in .NET, whatever the data this stored procedure is returning, that model we will create first. Okay. So let's create a model, public class and count integer. What property name we are going to get? EMP count. So this is the column which we are supposed to get. Okay. So we have created this column. Now this column we have to add as a DB set over here in our DB context. Over here as object. Okay. So what type of model we were adding in the DB context? The models which were replica of your database table. But now this is not your table, na? But still we are adding it. Correct, na? We don't add class which is not a representation of our model in the DB set. But this we are adding, right? Why? Because we are going to query with the database. So that's why whenever we create a model, means a stored procedure, whatever the data returning stored procedure, we have to create an exact replica of that model also. So we add that model in DB set. Okay. Now in DB context only, we have to create a method also to execute the stored procedure. Okay. So that will be inside DB context class. Okay. So first thing, create a model, add that into the DB context. Now in DB context, you have to create a method, public, let's say iQueryable data or iLinked list, anything we can go. What type of data we are going to get? Employee count. Get employee count. It's like creating a method inside a DB context class. Okay. Now over here, we are going to return whatever the data we get from that stored procedure. So return this dot, we are going to take a reference of this employee count. So employee count dot from SQL. Okay. See, from SQL. And then here you need to provide your how normally na. See, either you can do like this execute or you can write the execute word also. See, still it is going to execute the same. So how do we execute a stored procedure? Means how do we run the stored procedure? Execute, then stored procedure name, right? So the same thing, we have to put it over here. Why it is giving error? From SQL cannot convert string to formatable string. Formatable string means, do we need it in capital? No. Why it is giving error? Formatable string. Formatable string means .NET guys understood this error? Cannot convert string. It needs formatable string. See what this SQL needs? Formatable string data, but we are passing double quote means string. What is formatable string? Let's do the chat GPT. I think string is also a data type and formatable string is also a data type. Error you got now? Are you able to understand the error? It is saying
Yes, sir.
this function need which type of data? Formatable string, but we are passing a normal string. So that's why it is giving error.
No, no.
Okay. Okay, dollar we need. So dollar will convert in the formatable string. Or from SQL interpolated, this the use an interpolated SQL query. You need to use parameter or interpolation, use formatted SQL query. Use from SQL for raw SQL. Use from SQL raw. Okay. Instead of from SQL, you can use from SQL raw. Okay, fine. So I knew this in the previous version. We created this with latest version, no? Not with old, no? Because in 2.1, no, from SQL was working. But I think after that, it got changed. Anyway, so what we did, first we created a model. Okay, what type of response we were getting from our stored procedure, we created the model for that. This model we have added as a DB set into our DB context. Then in DB context, we have created a function which is going to execute this query, stored procedure. Okay. Now this function we can call in our controller. Okay. So let's create a normal controller. Let me just copy paste. Get employee count. Okay. Now over here, because we added our model into DB context, so now we can get that employee count. See, dot to list. So ultimately, whenever we are trying to fetch the data by this model, what is going to happen? This is going to execute this function. Okay. Let's see now. Okay. Employee count, try it out, execute. Let's add a debugger over here just to show you like this function is going to execute. We got error. Okay. So see, what's the error now? The entity type employee count requires a primary key to be defined. Okay. Because we created a model and this model we added adds inside the DB set. So whatever the model we add inside a DB set, it needs a primary key. Okay. So even though we know like in employee count, this is not a primary key. Employee count is not a primary key, na? It's just a response. But if we are adding a model inside a DB context, na, it needs to have a unique something. Okay. So we know like this is not going to be repeated. Na? Only one column we have. So we can add a key over here. Because that is a requirement. Whenever you are adding a class to your DB context, so that class should have a unique key. So primary key I have added. Let's try now. We got error. Let's see what's the error. It's saying invalid object name employee count. Invalid object. Employee count, EMP count. What it is saying? Invalid object name employee count. What's the name we have given? Employee count, same only, no? Why it is trying to find this model? You understood the error? It is trying to find like this is a table in my database, but it's not a table.
Do we
Sorry.
have to mention anywhere
No,
that
no,
this
no,
is a
no,
stored
no, no, no,
procedure?
no. This function I need to call. Okay, not the model. Function we need to call. I forgot that. So what we are doing with the help of this model, we are getting the data from this execute. Okay, so we need to execute this function. I tried to get the data by model instance. Where it is giving error. Expected where? Let's run. Okay, so it got over here. Then we are executing this particular store procedure. Continue. So see, we got the data over here. Employee count. Understood? So now that's why whatever the column name it is over here, that same column name, we should have it in our model also. If this doesn't match with this column name, your stored procedure will break. Okay, so this should match. Understood? So first you create the stored procedure. Then whatever the data type you are going to get, what are the columns you are going to get from the stored procedure, you create a model for that. Then you add this model with primary key. Just consider any first property which you know like it is integer. You add that primary key. Then you add this model as a DB set over here. Okay. Then in DB context only you will create a method with the returning data type as a list or IQable of this model. And this dot employee count dot from SQL raw execute and your stored procedure name. Then this function you will execute in your controller. Clear? Understood?
Sir, can you repeat the ID part, sir? Like I understood like count
No.
we are giving as alias name.
Why we give it? Why we given as ID? Key or what?
Yes, sir. Key. Normally, what error we got is like some ID should be there.
Right.
Like some error we got it. So
See,
after that,
if we are
you
adding a
added this
model,
key.
if we are adding a model in DB context, okay, what type of model we add in DB context? First of all, what type of model we add in a DB context as a DB set?
Table.
Table one,
Table.
right? So this is not a table one, correct? Whenever we are adding a
Yes,
model
sir.
in a DB context, it will consider like that is a table one,
Table.
right? So it needs something unique thing. That's why in employee master also we had key and employee address also we had key. But this is not our table connected model, right? But whenever we are adding a
Yes.
model inside a DB context, that model should have a primary key. But if we don't add this over here, we cannot execute this. So we need a curable object, like what type of data we are going to get from this. We need to data type everything, right? So that's why we have to add this. But we know like this model is not connected with our database, but still we are using it to fetch the data from stored procedure. So that's why just to avail the rule of this DB context, we have just added a primary key to our first key. We just have one property, so we have added key over here.
Suppose store procedure
Hmm.
fetch the name of the user, right?
Right.
Not a account.
We cannot
So-
do that then. We need something integer. because
Okay.
key you cannot add on the string, na?
Yes.
It will only work on the integer type of data. Okay,
Okay.
fine. So these are the
Okay,
things
sir.
which we have to do for reading the stored procedure. Now, this was the stored procedure which doesn't have any parameter. Okay, let's create another stored procedure which has a parameter now. Let's create a stored procedure which will search that data. So I'm using this search employees. So select star from employee master, where what do we do to contain that prefix? What we need to add? I need to implement contain query. Mohammed,
Yes, here we cannot write, we cannot leave it like blank. We have
no,
to write something in where, then we can concatenate something with this
no,
where.
no. I need to write a query which will, let's say I passed AN. So I need to find all the record which contains AN. How do we
Like,
add?
sir, like.
Like. That why I'll, where?
That column name, sir.
Why it's not coming? EMP name. Okay, where EMP name? How do I
Like,
write? Like.
like,
This?
yes. Then space,
Okay.
single quote,
Hmm.
then
Percent.
and then like
Query now.
based on what?
The
Yes.
characters.
So here we need that parameter.
Input parameter.
Yes.
That only we are passing now.
How do we do?
So you want
At the
to
rate,
yes, at the rate only.
at the rate search string
Yeah, that only you
colon.
paste it.
How do we give
Not
the
colon,
data
sir.
type? Where we need to give now? We don't need to
Yes.
provide data type.
No, we need. I think we don't need for.
So this is also enough. No, we need to provide a data type, no? To the
Data
parameter.
type we will need. Data type we will need.
How do we do that?
Yes, that was correct, sir. You have written the varchar 50, I think.
Your character name, varchar 50. Okay.
Yes, it's correct now.
So now this is your parameter name. What do we call it in DB syntax? What is
Input
the right?
parameter?
No, something word is there, no, for this in stored procedure. What do we call them? These are
Call it
parameters.
parameters.
Okay, let it be. So this we will pass it after this at, na? Like this?
No, before, sir. Before, sir.
Like
I
this?
mean, after percentage, you have to write inside the
Inside
single
that.
quote.
But
Yes.
it will be treated as a string. How do we make it dynamic? Like this?
No.
We can concatenate, but plus sign outside.
Outside,
At the
no?
end. Yes, but we need to remove this space, one space.
Plus is also there, no? Like
You can
this?
put plus, but yes.
Okay. Let's try to execute this query. Let's try to run it. If it works or not. Then AN. Okay. Execute. Yeah.
Execute.
Yeah, execute doesn't matter. That is optional.
No need to write execute, it will
Okay.
run.
Okay.
So see, we passed AN, so we got a record with AN. AN is over here. Okay. Let's first see what are the record we have so that we can test properly. Where is name? Okay, address. So, okay. So let's say AR. Okay, in Amar we have AR. Let's try to search with AR. See, Let's just pass A. So it will find all the record where we have A. No.
No, we have to change the percentage sign there. We have to put 2% sign, one at the starting, one at the end. So we can choose from both sides. It is searching
Okay.
for the last
That
one
I
only.
didn't. So this will act as a content, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now we have created already, right? Now we have to update this stored procedure. So we have to use alter. Okay, because while creating when you are creating a new stored procedure, you will use create. But when you have to update the existing one, you have to use the alter keyword over here. Okay. Now if we execute this, see, it got all the record wherever we have A. Let's pass S. See, all the name where we have S. See? Understood? So we have created a stored procedure where if we pass a character, it will find all the record in where we have that character in the names. Clear? So now this is our stored procedure where we can send a parameter. Okay. Now what type of data we are going to get? Whole employee data, right? Now instead of that, now instead of returning everything, we will return some particular field only. Let's say EMP ID we will return, EMP name we will return, and city we will return. Fine. So now we are not returning whole object. We are returning just 3 column, EMP ID, EMP name, and city. Okay. See now. So it is only returning 3 field, EMP ID, EMP name, and city. Okay. Now, as I said, first, whatever the data our stored process is returning, we have to create a model for that. Okay. So let's create a model. So that will be search employee. Okay. So again, EMP ID we are going to get. So that will be treated as a primary key. Then what we are going to get? EMP name and city. We don't have city. Okay, in database there was, or let's change it. Instead of city, we will use email. Okay. So these are the field we are going to get from our stored procedure. Now, so this model we need to register in our DB context as a DB set. Over here, over here. Then we need another function. Model will be search employee. Search employee by name. Okay. Now our execute query. Over here also same thing. Our query name search employee. Now we have to pass our query parameter also. Okay. So first this stored procedure name will go over here. After that, we need a space, and then you can pass your, see how we were executing over here. Stored procedure name, space, then your query means parameter name, parameter value. So like that, here first we need to specify the parameter name because we can have multiple parameter, right? So that's why we need to provide the parameter name. So at the rate, whatever parameter name we have over here, then comma, and then you can send the value. But value also we cannot send it directly. We have to convert it into a SQL parameter format. Okay. So here we will create a local variable SQL parameter. Okay. Then what is it? String is equal to new SQL parameter. And now whenever we are calling this function from API, we are going to get the search string.